Welcome to That Annuity Show, the podcast that will make you an expert in explaining annuities to your clients. Give us 30 minutes each week and we'll shave hours from your client presentations. Now, here's your host, Paul Tyler.
Hi, this is Paul Tyler, and welcome to another episode of That Annuity Show. Ramsey, how are you today?
Fantastic. Always great to be here.
Okay, good. And you bring a very special guest to this show. Do you want to do the introduction?
Sure. So we're joined today by Adam Holt, who has many distinctions. One of them is that, as far as I'm concerned, he's our first guest. First guest we had,
yes.
And that was probably at least a year and a half ago, and we're now up to 115 episodes, and that was probably episode 25 or 30 or something like that.
I'll have to look in the archives.
So,
yes.
and look, we've discovered that the show really works well because we're lucky enough to have great guests. So thank you for being the proof of concept that, helped us, launch everything that we've done since then. So just by way of introduction, Adam runs Asset Map, which is really a fantastic financial planning tool for a number of reasons. Primary of which, as far as I'm concerned, is that it delivers the message in a very, very concise way. So Adam focuses on images, and he focuses on getting as close as possible to a single page, which obviously is a challenge, and that's obviously I think a very important set of tools. So a lot has happened since the last time we spoke, and we're looking forward to chatting with Adam today. So Adam, tell us what's new in your world.
What's new? Well, first of all, it's great to see you guys again. And I remember that episode. It was an inspirational episode. I'm so happy to see you guys have had fantastic success and adoption, literally throughout our industry. Really, you were ahead of your time, and I really applaud you for that. You've actually inspired us to start our own podcast too, because clearly there's space. I don't know. What's new for Asset Map, or what's new for me? It's been an interesting couple of years for all of us, and we've had to retool. We've had to rethink our team, having everybody go remote and stay remote. I'm alone in my 4,000 square foot bachelor pad X office, so I'm here by myself every day. It's been an interesting journey. I would say that I miss people. And I'm looking forward to getting back together with a lot of people. But the industry has been really resilient, hasn't it? I mean, a lot of advisors have retooled their practices, gone remote, gone virtual, very little hiccups because they had either started to use virtual experiences, shared screens, environments. We're no longer complaining about whether our clients in Florida can set up the remote screen sharing, and is this on, and wait, is the microphone on? We spend 15 minutes just getting the meeting set so that we could end the meetings, and not get anything done. I think people are really comfortable in this environment. I don't think people are going back. So I think, they're not going back fully. I think this is the way that probably 50% of all financial interactions, advice will happen. I've also seen a real push, guys, towards this concept of leading with advice. We tend to use this hashtag a lot now, #lead with advice, because we're seeing that the professional marketplace, whether it's traditional insurance, investment management, RIA, banking, tax, legal, everybody is promoting themselves as a professional advisor. Product is definitely coming in second in terms of where they're not leading with product, they're leading with advice and context. So I think that's a really good thing for the industry, but it's creating huge gaps too. A lot of advisors are really pushing back on this idea that they have to be a financial planner for everybody. So I think there's there's a really interesting kind of mix of how do I lead with advice, but not do an 80-page financial plan, which just destroys sales anyway. And basically becomes not a sales enablement tool, but a sales extension tool. So I think there's some interesting challenges that we have an opportunity to break.
Yeah, well, this is great. It's interesting. Your stat, 50% working remote. I totally agree, and we're seeing that. The advisors who, as you said, had lead sources, had some facility with webcams and stuff. They've had a great year, and they're not turning back. They're saying I can see more people, I can I don't have cancellations, or if I do have a cancellation, all I've lost is 30 minutes, not 2 hours driving someplace. But just to do a slight detour, so last Sunday I was watching the Emmys, Ramsey, and I was thinking of us, right?
Yeah, me too.
They had
it's top of mind.
Adam, they had a skit there of, it was kind of like a support group for people who were nominated for Emmys but never got them. And in our business, the Wealthies were out. And Ramsey, we got nominated, Ramsey, for a Wealthy.
Yes, we were honored. It was unexpected, and we were honored. Honored to have been nominated.
We were. However, Adam, you actually won. But tell us about it. But more importantly, tell us about the backstory, how you got there. I think you've got a really cool story here.
Well, Wealthies it's funny, the wealthmanagement.com awards, which is pretty much considered, at least for those that actually participate in it, it is a big deal for the 700 some nominations. First of all, don't feel bad. Okay. Was this your first Wealthies?
It was our first.
It was.
Oh, it was your first. Okay. Nobody wins their first Emmys either, by the way. Okay. You have to show up for years and years, and then you get jaded, and then you finally win a Lifetime Achievement Awards if you just stick with it. The Wealthies, our first year, we were nominated as a finalist 3 years ago. We didn't win.
Okay, that was it.
We just don't want to be the Susan Lucci of the Wealthies.
We put on our black tie. We brought all our friends. We spent a bunch of money. We were so excited, and we sat there as our friends won, and we didn't. It was very disheartening. But we applied the second year. We actually nominated ourselves the second year, and we won.
So that's how you
one
do it.
out of two. And last year, we nominated ourselves again, and we won 2 out of 3. So I think it's a staying power game. I think it's about being, like everything, it's about being relevant and marketing yourself. But it is interesting. Last year, 2020, we were really blessed. We won 2. We won specialty planning again, our second year in a row, specialty planning tools. And last year, we also won a really interesting one, which was really more, I think, the heart side. We won diversity, equity, and inclusion for technology firms, which is a new category. And what we actually got recognized for was our Advice Tech Live conference, which some people know about. It's literally a full-day virtual event where we showcase as many as 20 firms, what they're building, what they're doing, so that advisors can finally see what is the newest tech on the street. And because there's typically barriers to seeing what's out there, you don't see the newest tech because either your broker dealer doesn't show you or allow you to see it, or you're busy. You're not going to a conference and spending thousands of dollars to go sit with a bunch of booths, especially if there's a virus. So we wanted to create this conference. We're bringing together all our competitors, everybody. And if we raise any money, if the project is net positive, we are going to donate it to charity. And so we basically, Asset Map runs the risk of it going negative. So clearly we want to raise a bunch of money. And so we gave the money to the CFP Board's Diversity and Inclusion Initiative, which, if you're not following it, is a fantastic educational program for an investment and research program for the CFP Board. So that's why we got recognized for D&I with that program specifically, and we were really, I think, honored to do it. So yeah, that's the story of how we got to the Wealthies, and the rest is all just great product, right?
Well,
we just
yeah. But here's the thing, because I experienced to watch you plan that first one out, and there were a few things that were remarkable. One is you made the decision 5, 6, 7 weeks before you launched it, right? Like, it was a fairly short launch. You got together with a group of people, a diverse group of people, and said we should do this. Mm-hmm. And in both years, and we talked about this prior to the show. One of the things that struck me is that if I looked at those that were involved in it, right, in various ways, sometimes they were on panels, sometimes they were involved in organizing it, but you drew, in both cases, a diverse set of inputs, and I think that's part of the reason why it has worked so well, and you were deliberate about it, and that's the other thing that I think everybody needs to understand. It's important to be deliberate about it to make it happen, and I think it yields great benefits.
Yeah, I really appreciate you recognizing that, and I think a lot of us in positions of leadership where we can be a multiplier of ethic have to actually lead by example. And the feedback we got on the first Advice Tech Live in 2020 was that this is great that you're investing, you're giving your money to a topic that needs attention. It is underserved in especially the financial advisor community. It is clearly dominated by white men. Obviously, historically, we know why that is. And of course, we can, the change is going to take decades, right? But it's interesting. I think we've made more strides as an industry in the last 2 years because awareness is up and because, you can, get talent from everywhere now in the entire country. They don't have to be in your locality. And it doesn't have to be within your network. But the reason I say that is because when we did Advice Tech Live this year, our goal was to actually lead by example. And that meant actually making sure that the panelists and the people who participated did reflect made a big statement on our commitment to D&I, not just we're given money. All right. So this year, only 30% of our panelists were white male, right? 70% represented diverse communities, women, people of color, different actually nationalities. We were like, can we take this to like a whole different level and actually deliver? And it was an awesome event this year. So I'm really so proud that my team was able to pull this off. Also in 2 months because we didn't plan again. But it really, you know what it is, Ramsey? It's a testament to the fact that people want to be part of something more meaningful, all right? And they're willing to take their time and their money to put behind things that actually are going to make change and a difference. I think that's the next evolution of where we are, everybody, is everybody wants meaning, not just money. They want to be part of something that's going to actually make a difference in this planet. And that's really attractive, I think, for most of us.
Yeah, meaning, not money. I like that. I like that. It's true.
Hopefully it's true.
It is. I as much as people say the paycheck is important, I just don't see people driven by the paychecks today for the most part. It's great. I think it's great. Well, tell us, Adam, what's new with your platform? So you showed us this great map last time. The one-page illustration of where your assets are and who they're protecting. How has your platform evolved since we talked, or how will it?
Let's see. How's it in the past year and a half? How's it? Well, we've delivered a whole new user experience, which is all about speed, right? Because nobody has any attention span anymore. So I'm not waiting 5 seconds to see the screen I want to show because we're all in live presentation all the time, right? I think the production value of our digital meetings the expectations are through the roof. Because think about it this way. Our customers have been watching a year and a half of binge Netflix. The Netflix knows what they want before they even know what they want, right? It's already playing the next show before you even get to say no, and it's playing the next, right? And Amazon is selling us 10 products when we only want to buy one, right? Because people like you also bought this. So we've taken a lot of cues from where we are as consumers of technology, all of us, right? We're all using technology, a significant amount. What are the new standards of experience and delivery? And we involve that into Asset Map. So it's ridiculously fast. I want to see where all your whatever is. Boom. I want to see how you're doing for a retirement plan. Boom. Like instant. And we had to change a whole platform to do that. The other thing we've been focusing on is, so what? Like, who cares that I could generate 20 pages of nonsense report? I want to know what I should focus on right now because I got 5 minutes of attention. And so we've been really thinking about how can we take some of the frameworks that we've been teaching advisors for the past 10 years, things that I came up with literally driving in the car, this idea called the 6 L's. It was written up about recently as a framework for all financial planning. But it's a fun story because I was literally driving, I want to say it was 10 or 11 years ago, to a conference. I was speaking. I was a keynote. And the president of the company, whose it was, the firm, said, listen, Adam, I don't want you to talk about what you always talk about. Like, talk about something completely different. I'm like, well, I wasn't preparing for that while I'm driving to go to your event. And while I was driving there, I had one of these moments, right? Like that we all have. I had a conversation with myself and I was like, well, what are the things that all families really don't pay attention to, right? Here I am driving a car, 4-hour drive. And do I have my seatbelt on? Yep. Like, did I check the tire pressure? No. Did I check the oil? No. I rely on my car to tell me if there's something wrong. So if I break down, I'm not going to make this darn event. And I started relating that to financial planning, and I found a strange anomaly here. Are you ready for this? There are 6, I kind of talked myself into this, and this is how I present it. I haven't changed it since. There are 6 events that typically disrupt someone's financial life. All of us, everyone listening, us on the call. And interestingly enough, I was able to get them all to start with the first letter L. I don't know, somehow this happened. Okay. So we call them the 6 L's. We've renamed this aptly the financial fire drills because, as we all know, when our kids go to school, now they're going back to classes, they run fire drills, right? We all did that as kids. Some of us did bomb drills, depending upon where you lived. Okay. But the point is that these 6 events disrupt us. What do we know about fire drills? If you don't actually practice running through the fire, what happens is people die, okay? That's why we all practice fire drills. Get up, walk slowly, don't talk, get in a line, walk calmly out the door. You know where you're going, right? I show you specifically. Well, what would happen if we did this for financial advice? What if we took over our clients and said, listen, there's 6 fires that can happen that are going to mess up our entire beautiful retirement plan, okay? So I know you're excited because you're 95% funded for retirement, but here's the ones that are going to totally blow us out. Like, we're going to have a breakdown in the middle of the desert. Okay. And right. Can you guys relate to this? I mean, does it make sense?
Absolutely.
We're dying to hear what the L's are, man.
Yes.
Are you ready? I'm going to tell them. All right. Here they are. They're in order from short term to long term. Okay. Ready? So if you have a pencil or something like that, grab it. The 6 L's are the following: liquidity, long-term disability, loss of life, long-term care, longevity, and legal or liability concerns. Okay. Now, what does that mean? These are great words. They all start with the letter L. Why? Because all of us who grew up in sales need a framework to remember things. Okay.
6
Liquidity.
L's.
What is liquidity? Liquidity means basically if you had a short-term need for cash, aka emergency reserves, or aka Nana calls up and says, I need some money, or my son just crashed a car, we need money and it's not covered, I don't want to go into debt, I'm going to need a certain amount of cash. So do we have the right amount of liquidity? Run that fire drill with me. Where are you going to go? Show me on the map, if you're using Asset Map, where's the money we're going to go, and does it make sense? Do you have enough? Is it in the right place? Yes or no? Great, move on. Number 2, if we have a disability event, what's the plan? Can you walk me through that? Do you know what most people say when they have disability? Oh, my employer gives me disability insurance. That replaces my income, right? Does it? No. It's a taxable benefit. We all know that. And it's usually limited to 60% of base, capped at a dollar amount. You make a lot of money, that's going to be disruptive. Okay. Show me, what's the fire drill? Run me through this, because you do not want to be scrambling when all of a sudden, God forbid, this happens to you. And now we're like, wait, did anybody check? You know who's going to answer for that one, guys? The financial advisor. Because I think with the best interest advice, where we're moving is that this is going to apply to everybody, right? You didn't give me what kind of doctor are you? You didn't tell me I had like cholesterol problems? Nah, I didn't feel like talking about it because I don't feel comfortable talking about cholesterol issues. Like, what? Most advisors tell me they don't like talking about disability because they actually don't like the product. It's annoying. Underwriting's horrible. That's why advisors don't talk about disability. And as a result, most people don't have enough coverage. Do you see that? Do you see the problem?
Totally. And that's
I'm sorry to dominate, but this is like a passion project for me.
So this you hit on a key issue, and we touched on this a little bit in a recent interview we did with Wade Pfau and Alice Merguia, is that ultimately it's not just the personality of the client that matters, it's the personality and limitations of the advisor. And if advisors aren't talking about things that they just don't feel like talking about or not comfortable talking about, how can they actually meet that best interest standard they're supposed to meet? So
and Adam, in the past we'd say, well, this is why you work in a team. You got somebody who's the disability specialist, the long-term care. Right, that's great. If you got 6 people, 7 people, all of them have specialized and they all like each other, right?
Yeah, right.
So this is great. So I love it.
What do you do with it?
Yeah, what do I do with it?
Well, you make a great point, Paul, which is that unfortunately, If you're in the product sale business, okay, then it makes sense to design your firm around the products that you want to sell, right? Just like a retail outfit. If you're a store, you know, I like selling, I sell groceries and I sell produce. So I don't want to sell frozen food. So I'm not going to build a frozen food section because I don't want to deal with the headaches of frozen foods. Unless my customers want frozen foods and they would buy that while they're buying their produce, AKA a shopping center, okay? Or like a grocery store, right? But now you would say, like, Adam, what the heck does that have to do with financial planning? Well, when you're a product-centered advice shop, or I shouldn't say advice shop, when you're a product-centered financial advisor, you're going to sell the products that you know you like and you feel makes sense efficiently to sell, right? I have an underwriting team. I'm going to sell all the insurance products. I have an investment team. I'm clearly going to sell investment products. It doesn't always make sense for you to get into businesses you're not good at or don't like, or the money's not right, or it's a decreasing margin business. That's just economics, right? The challenge is that customers are coming in to financial advisors who are positioning as advice-led advisors, right? I'm a professional that gives advice first. And they think that they're getting comprehensive financial advice, and all you're doing is selling them the life insurance and the annuity, and you're leaving all these other components that they just figure, what, aren't you looking after me as a holistic person? You say you're a financial advisor, but what, you're saying it's inefficient because you don't sell those products, so we're not going to talk about those issues? Most financial advisors don't sell property and casualty, right? They don't sell it. They don't know it. They don't understand it at all. And yet a significant number, the biggest gap mathematically of all the households in Asset Map, undercovered for personal liability. Mm-hmm. Serious assets at risk, nobody even understands the issue. You know why? Because advisors don't educate on the topic. So it's not an issue. As far as I'm concerned, it's not an issue. He said, I'm all good. And then he gets sued because one of the tenants of his property basically had a dog and he didn't own it right, and nobody brought it up. Do you see what I'm saying? I went to the more obscure of the examples, but the same darn thing is true with life. It's so true with longevity. So to wrap this kind of up, and you guys can, I think those listening can figure out what's a conversation around the 6 L's. I train this in our boot camp. I still train it today myself. This concept that we need to ask every single household that comes into our office, by the way, what's your plan to deal with the 6 financial fire drills that typically disrupt all our plans? Do you have a plan? Just tell me you have a plan, because if you have a plan, that's great. I can check it off on my compliance. Liquidity, long-term disability, loss of life, long-term care, longevity, and legal liabilities. You have it covered, right? Oh, no, you don't? Oh, let me educate you. Let me explain what you should do. You got to call my buddy, or we'll take care of it ourselves, right? You have a referral network. You have to be able to do that, I think, in every annual review. And I tell you what, if you don't think that that's a sales enablement strategy, it is. Because what it does is it sells the problem. We all know that if you want to sell more business, you sell the problem. People will solve the problem if they can clearly identify it. But if you're not willing to identify the problem and admit that it exists, good luck. You're selling product again. And this is where I think it's really relevant for this audience. One of the 6 L's you've already figured out is longevity, right? Well, how do we communicate that to clients of financial advice? Longevity is not a risk that we tend to walk around, or we talk about economic risk, inflation risk, all these other beautiful economic terms that we learned in college and forgot. Longevity risk, as you guys know really well, is the challenge of potentially outliving your assets, right? And so one of the things that has been really challenging, I think, for advisors is how do you bring up this topic of conversation without saying, oh, this is an annuity conversation, or this is a pension conversation, or this is I don't know, what? We basically ask the client the question, what's the plan? If you outlive your money, what's going to happen? Walk me through this scenario. Just walk me through the fire drill. Most people haven't even asked this question. You need to understand whether it's a big fear, first of all, right? Like, I am not moving in with my kids because I don't like my daughter-in-law and it's never going to work out. Like, that's the worst thing for our family. We're not doing that, okay? You need them to actually walk through that and experience it before they're willing to actually recognize, okay, yeah, I need to have my security plan here. And they need to understand what it means, right? And then we need to be able to score them. So what we've been working on in Asset, it's a long way of basically telling you we're really excited because we're in in fall of 2021, we're rolling out an artificial intelligence version of the 6 L's inside of all asset maps. So imagine this, guys. I can do a full fact find of your household in 15 minutes. In fact, I can send you a link. You could do it yourself on your own phone. I'm going to build a map from that entire information, and I'm instantly going to screen it mathematically for the propensity to fund those 6 L's. Red light, yellow light, green light. No numbers. No like you're good, you're bad. Just give me how big is the risk and make it color coded for me, actually fully ADA compliant. The point is that we didn't want any obscurity around saying, listen, you guys got a red engine light on this car. You better get into the shop now. Or you can afford to wait a couple miles. It's not that bad. Okay. We need to be able to message that to the advisor so that we can get this out of a sales, we'll call it, problem. So I can bring up, Paul, you know what? I'm looking at your asset map. My system says that there's a couple red lights here. It looks like loss of life. I'm having a red light come up, and I'm also having a red light on longevity. Wow, Adam, what is that? What does that mean? Well, it means that the system thinks potentially we don't have enough coverage or funding to sustain these events that will disrupt all our plans. I think we should look at it. Do you agree? Yeah. Which one do you think is more important to you? This one or that one? That one. Okay, great. Let's spend this month on that. 2 months from now, we'll come back. We'll revisit this, right? Do you follow what I'm doing?
Oh, yeah. This is, and you talked a little bit about this before, as Netflix has said, hey, I just finished this show, and it's already going into 3 potential trailers about what should be next. This is a fascinating topic for me. Ramsey, this would be a whole other episode here. Is your model trained off a particular style of investor, or is it training off of what other advisors have done for their clients? And you're saying, oh, similar client to here, and this is what how these advisors solve this problem.
Yeah. You know what I found in trying to design this, Paul? The biggest challenge with coming up with a single screening formula is that it's wrong. Mm-hmm. It's wrong.
Right.
I kind of equate it to this, and maybe not be the best analogy, but you know how you have those scanners when you go through the TSA to take a flight? Remember when we used to fly places? They would make everybody go through the scanner, right? And inevitably, right, you think you emptied all your pockets, and the light goes off, and they're like, okay, sir, go to the back again, start again. I'm like, oh, come on, what is it? And you're looking everywhere for what it is, right? These false positives, if you will. Right? I'm not carrying anything dangerous. I have some belt buckle or something that's setting the thing off, or a pin, or a leg that's been replaced. And so then they escalate you, and then they put you through the 3D scanner, right? And if that's still coming up wonky, then they put you through the test, and next thing you know, you're naked. Okay. So the point is that there are always going to be false positives to every scan, right? It's an issue, but it's not really an issue. And so we had to forgive ourselves and say, okay, I need a model that requires no human input, that allows me to say, check this out. Reactor number 4 looks like it's getting hot. Doesn't mean we're having an explosion. It just means someone go down and check it out. Okay. It could be a false wire. It could be like a wire is missing or something, like you go to the maintenance guy and he says, the light's broken. Just tap on the light. It'll fix itself. We had to forgive ourselves to try to create perfection here. And so the answer to your question is it's basically built on the relationship between a household's income and what they're used to living on, and their asset base and their sustainable unearned income that lasts throughout retirement. Because if somebody has a significant income portfolio like real estate, that might satisfy the need, right? One might argue, I've got income that's coming from rent. I've got pensions. I've got Social Security. And if that relationship and your assets is lower than the threshold we need to make your income sustainable to age 95, then I want to know about that. And I think that it was more important for us to give an indication, as opposed to Paul, you're a 72 and Ramsey's a 37. And everyone's like, well, what does that mean? It doesn't mean anything. It means maybe Ramsey's a yellow and Paul is a green and Adam is red. And let's prioritize that. because I need activity this week and I need to be reaching out to my clients and saying, hey, you know what? This came up and I think we should address it. It's bothering me. The red light is on. I don't know if it's a false positive. Come into the office or get on a Zoom and let's just discuss whether this is a real issue or not. Being proactive is the next generation of where advisors need to be. We can't be like waiting for them to come in every, once a year or once every 5 years. We have to call them up and say, hey, this is an issue. I'm sending over this, like sending an app, right? Think about that.
So you said something very interesting earlier, Adam, about
only one thing. That's all I said. One thing after the 20 minutes.
Well, we have limited time, so I'm prioritizing, right?
Smart. Red light.
So yeah, so I was very curious about how many of these gaps there are that you mentioned. She said the biggest gap, one of the biggest gaps was in this commercial liability, and I'd never really thought about that with respect to Asset Map. But just in that moment, I said, wow, so you have 5,000 advisors, 1 million people, as you say,
yeah.
and an Asset Map for every one of them. And so you have this really important piece of data, like what shortfalls come up most often. That's actually a really important piece of aggregate data. So that was very
it is really important.
I was very curious about that. Or is that proprietary?
Well, I'm going to give you ranges. I'm not going to give you defensible numbers, right? Because hopefully
fine.
I have my liability protection actually covered because I got a green light because we know that it will. But seriously, it is unbelievable. Okay, so here's a couple of interesting stats. So the average household now, okay, so several 100,000 households. $1.4 trillion in financial instruments. Now, I'm including assets, liabilities as positive values, income sources for the annual, and insurance benefits. So it's all the financial stuff, right? Dump it in the middle of the floor, and it piles up to $1.4 trillion, okay? In U.S. dollars, I'm converting. With several hundred households, it means that the average household is controlling, according to this, a little over 2 million when we pull out the super billionaires, okay? Because you got to pull out those people because they're like they mess up the numbers, okay? Because there are some really large families on Asset Map. Because advisors work with pretty all across the board. What does it tell us? It tells us that the typical household of an advisor in general is using Asset Map is controlling about $2 million, $2.2 million in financial instruments, insurance assets, whatever. You know what's crazy about that? These are people working with financial professionals. Liability, according to our math, either advisors are not putting in that information because they don't think it's valuable. Why? Because they probably don't sell it. All right. So they're skipping over liability protections, property and casualty protections. So the next biggest failure is unbelievable is disability. Okay. Followed by underinsurance. So let me make it in context to you. According to our math, it would seem as much as 70% of the population inside of Asset Map is underinsured for life insurance. And they're working with a financial advisor.
Interesting.
What? That means that advisors are not focusing on that problem, or they don't bring it up, or they don't know how to sell it, or they don't like to sell it, or they feel like that's too weird, or we have too many investment advisors using the platform and they only want to talk about investments and they don't care about the insurance, or they just don't ask about it. I can't give you a conclusion as to what it means, but I have to tell you, according to RMAT, insurance and annuities is probably the biggest opportunity if you're just looking at market gap. If you're trying to get into a business today and you want to look like where's the market going, especially demographically, there's I don't know. The point is that it's a blue ocean. And the fact is that advisors are not selling enough insurance. They're not protecting their clients enough. They're like saying, dude, you could drive literally from Philadelphia to Los Angeles. You kind of don't really need seatbelts. You'll be fine. You'll be okay. Likelihood you'll arrive on time. Oh, and your kids are in the car. No seatbelts? What kind of advisors are we? It pisses me off, frankly, because I got kids. And if my advisor is supposedly looking out for me and he's not taking care of these basic needs, or checking or making sure I got the right air pressure, replace you. And I think that's what we can do. I think that's why one of the reasons why I was really passionate, clearly, about making sure that we had a way to signal to the advisors. That's what it's called, signals. Signal the advisors, hey, pay attention, red light, so that they could actually satisfy this need.
Well, and I think of one of our other guests, Joe Jordan. You'd say, you have a moral obligation, okay, Adam, to have that conversation for the people who aren't at the table, who are depending on you as an income provider, and what happens if you can't work or you die prematurely. So I think this is great what you're doing. Hey, Ramsey, we're like closing in on time. What are any final thoughts, questions for Adam?
Just a number of we talked about a number of great things today, and really stunned by some of the stats you shared at the end. I think those are stories unto themselves. That's a podcast or an article or something. Maybe your content people are already focusing on it, but that is super intriguing. And then the last thing I'll say, and we talked about this a little bit before the show, is the thing that was fascinating to me about Asset Map, among many things, is this idea that it has a universality. You've got a presence in many other countries. In South Africa, you mentioned, in the Caribbean and elsewhere, and so many of the tools we see are only applicable here in I would say the lower 58, but I guess Alaska and Hawaii too, in the 50 states.
They count, yeah.
So there's a lot of wealth there too.
There is.
In any event, just congrats on what you've done, and congrats on your Wealthy and how you got there, very importantly. And thanks for coming back on the show.
Yeah. Adam, thank you. And we'll put the link to Asset Map in our show notes. And you mentioned you're doing a podcast with Derek. What's the name of the program? Let's plug your show here.
Derek Nautman and I is founder of Connector, a virtual-only platform for advisors moving that way. And myself, we always banter about things, kind of like you guys have a great rapport. We were really annoyed with what was going on in the industry, so we said we need to rethink it. And so that's what our podcast, it's called Rethink the Financial Advisor. And it's basically how all about everything that we've learned as the past 20 years of our own being a financial advisor, moving remotely, and how we want to personally change the industry. And so it's a mentorship platform. It's an opportunity for advisors who want to hear some real frank, I'm not going to say compliant. we kind of push the limits as to what we're willing to say, but also to try to promote change and also to empower people. So that's the fun thing. And we do interview every once in a while. We just interviewed Kitsis last week and got his opinion, and then we just tore it apart. So it's fun. So definitely check it out. Rethink the Financial Advisor.
All right, we definitely will. So anyway, listen, Adam, thank you so much for your time and all you're doing for the industry and some of these important causes. And for our listeners, hey, we thank you for tuning in and listening each week. Give us feedback. Tell us what you think, the questions we missed, and who else should be on our show. So great, cool. Thanks, and tune in again next week for another episode of That Annuity Show.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. If you've enjoyed the show, please rate and recommend us on iTunes, Stitcher, Overcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also get more information at thatannuityshow.com.